Hello. Okay, I'm gonna get set up here and wait for people to arrive. Whew, there we go. That's better. Okay, let's see. Hey Melissa, I'm just gonna wait a few minutes for some other people to join us and then we'll get started. Okay, so I get used to this. There we go. I'm always impatient for starting these things. So, the best part about the live is not only you can watch now, but I love the fact that it posts them afterwards and everyone can check them out as a recording as well. So that's something I really like. I always feel funny getting started, not sure where to start or when to start, but I'm excited about it. So I had something that I kind of wanted to read that kind of kicks off what we were going to talk about today. And it's really just tied to confidence and overcoming fears and things that we face on a day-to-day basis that sometimes we don't always want to face. But in doing so, it allows us to be more true to who we are and enjoy life a whole lot more. The process isn't always easy, but it's definitely worth it. So, it's from this fun, it's a really cool inspirational book. It's called Inward, and I really recommend it. Talks about many of us walk the earth as strangers to ourselves, not knowing what is true, why we feel what we feel, actively working to repress experiences or ideas that are too jarring for us to observe and release. It is a paradox occurring in the human mind. We run away from what we do not want to face, from what brings feelings of pain, and from problems we don't have answers to. But in our running away from ourselves, we are also running away from our own freedom. And so that's the first paragraph. And I think that it's so telling and so true, because in that we run away from ourselves because we're trying to avoid the pain and things that are hard to deal with. Stuff that we don't want to experience because we're trying to prevent the pain. But in feeling and releasing that, we get freedom from it. And that freedom at the end brings joy and happiness into life. It goes on to say, it is through the observation of all that we are and accepting what we observe with honesty and without judgment that we can release the tension that creates delusions in the mind and walls around our heart. This is why the keys to our freedom lie in our darkness, because when we observe our darkness by bringing our light of awareness inward, the ego begins to dissipate into nothingness and the subconscious slowly becomes understood. I remember when we first, hey Brandy, I remember when I first started actually paying attention to my fears and actually acknowledging that they existed. It was amazing to me that as I did this, I started reading books and stuff, and it talked about, how to face your fears, how to overcome, and all of these things. And that sounded great, but the actual actions of doing it scared the shit out of me anyway. So, in learning how to do that, one example was that your fear is equivalent to darkness. And what happens when you shine light on darkness? It dissipates, it runs from the light. And I remember visualizing some of my fears and identifying them. And it felt like the minute I named them, they started to get smaller. They started to I could visualize them running away of, I no longer have as big a fear because I can identify it. I can see it in my life. I know what it does to me when it shows up. And I get the power to choose differently when I know what it is. And instead of being afraid of the darkness, afraid of the fear, afraid of what hides in the shadows of my thoughts, I named it. I looked at it, I identified it, and just in shining that light on it and giving it a name, giving it an identity to say, this is what this is. This is what I'm actually afraid of. I'm afraid of someone judging me, and that's why I don't like to do this. Well, all of a sudden, then I can put into place a thought process of, well, wait a minute, who am I afraid of judging me? Someone that loves me? Well, if they truly love me, their judgment should either be growth or they shouldn't be judging anyway because they love you. Or am I worried about people that don't care? And why do their opinions affect me? And so then all of a sudden that judgment became smaller of an importance. It shrunk in front of me. Was it still kind of naggly there of like, oh, but the judgment, what if someone doesn't like me? Well, that could happen. Someone could not like you. But I also lived on the flip side of pleasing everyone made me miserable. So giving up a handful of people liking me so that I liked myself was well worth the sacrifice. But I didn't know I was doing that. I couldn't see that until I slowed down enough and took the time to pay attention to what hurt. Why did it hurt? What were my fears? Where did they come from? And when I could do that, all of a sudden they got a hell of a lot smaller. They didn't matter as much. They weren't as scary. And then as I made choices to walk through them, they got even smaller. Some disappeared. Some just simply don't matter anymore. Some of them still exist, and I'm still working on it. But I'm very happy that despite, it being difficult, being painful, facing those fears, facing that darkness, that, dealing with those shadows in my mind brought me joy, helped me to love myself, and all of those benefits were well worth the cost. So to finish this, the mind is full of shadows, but shadows cannot withstand the patience and perseverance of light. Our mind can become like stars, powerful, united fields of pure light. But unlike a star, the healed mind will dwell in awareness and wisdom. Healing our mind and being able to have the tools that take on our fears, take on those shadows that exist in the back part of our mind, allows us to continue to do it. Because the reality is there's new stuff that comes up. There's things you've never experienced before, and they happen. But when you learn the tools to handle those fears and you start doing it slowly, step by step, hey, I'm going to handle this fear. I'm going to handle this fear of eating something new. I'm going to handle this fear of talking to someone I've never met before or talking on Facebook Lives. When you start to slowly, one step at a time, baby steps apply to everything. Okay, hey, I did that. Hey, that fear doesn't exist anymore. Hey, okay, that works. I'm going to identify this next fear. And you work one by one through it, and it gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier. Some fears are bigger than others. Break them down into small pieces. You don't have to take them on all at once, but don't stop taking it on. Don't stop shining light onto those dark parts, onto those shadows in your mind, because your mind is a beautiful thing and it's very powerful, and you have the steering. You get to steer where your mind goes. But if you let go of the steering, it's going to wander into places that isn't good for you. You have to take control of that and direct it and make those decisions. This is what I'm going to face this scary part right now. And I'm going to deal with these shadows because there's happiness and joy on the other side of that. I'm going to have control of my self-talk because when I choose positivity means that when crap happens, I can find the good in it. I can be grateful, which produces resiliency. When you're in control of your mind, you direct how your thoughts go. You direct which thoughts you take in. You direct, no, this is where I want to end up. And so these are the choices I'm going to make to get there. Even when it's dark, even when it's painful, there's always joy and happiness on the other side of that. So that was one thing that I really wanted to share today. It's a long process. Anything I said certainly isn't something that happens overnight, but it is something that you can do every day of your life to bring that bit of joy, that bit of gratitude, that bit of strength and confidence, because when you can do this, you know you can do it again. If I can do it, I know for sure you can do it. There was nothing extra special about me learning to do it. It was just one step at a time, a little bit at a time, one fear at a time, one shadow at a time. And I found it possible to keep going and keep doing it and find joy in the end. So know that I believe in you, that you can 100% do these things. If you ever want to chat about some of your fears, I would love to talk about that, and we can, help dig in to identify what is causing that, where it's coming from, shine some light on it to help you get through moving past some of those things that are holding you back from reaching your best self. I hope that you guys have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. I was about to say Saturday. It's not Saturday. A wonderful Sunday afternoon. It's kind of a short live stream today, but I really felt like that was something vital to share with all of you. And I hope those of you that watch the recording later really feel free to comment how you can apply this in your life, and Melissa and Brandy, feel free to comment, like, if you feel comfortable sharing fears, let's talk about them, share some of the things or ways that you can implement taking on your fears and shining light on them. Where do they come from? What can you do to overcome and move past those things in your life? Remembering that embracing that difficulty for a little time brings joy for a lifetime. So, if you guys have questions, leave them in the comments. I'd love to chat. If you have things you want to share, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to see what you think and how this helped. And those of you that view the recording, feel free to do the same thing. Have a great afternoon, guys. It was great to chat.